my topic for today is how can we use AI and specifically also generative AI. Yeah? My name is Lukas, as I said, working in field engineering in the German pre-sales team, but also covering Eastern Europe. So hopefully someone knows my name already. If not, reach out to me regarding all technical questions, in specific for machine learning, artificial intelligence, and yeah, in general analytics, I would say. So I think we'll kick it directly off because we have a pretty packed agenda, which I brought with me today. So I think it makes sense to firstly cover like some basics because like there's a lot of like buzz around AI, generative AI. And what I want to make sure is that we all have the same understanding of this technology. What does it mean? We'll dive into a real-world use case. So how are customers right now using generative AI in Qlik? And after that, we also talk a little bit about the downside of it. I know people don't want to talk about it, but I think it's important. So what are the challenges of adopting generative AI? And after that, we'll dive into a new tool, which is not GA yet. It'll be GA next month in July, Qlik Answers. Got introduced on Qlik Connect. And, but I have brought access today. Yeah, but as I said, it's like not GA yet, it's on a stage tenant. We can get a little sneak peek. Yeah, so bear with me here, and I'll show that in the end. So, yeah, I want to start really with the basis, as I mentioned. So I want to start with what is AI in the beginning. And I mean, what everyone does is, hey, we ask ChatGPT what AI is. And I think once I did that, there's like a couple of good things in there actually, which is surprising because sometimes ChatGPT leans to giving not really nice answers. Sometimes it's wrong, if you didn't know. But here are a couple of good points. So it learns from experience. We want to perform tasks that usually require human intelligence, and that's quite on point. And I think that's something we can work with. My next slide goes a little bit into more detail. Yeah? So we have like a broad range of AI. So I've brought an example with me here on the left side. It's like a very famous coffee machine manufacturer who advertised back in the days that, hey, the most frequently selected products are automatically arranged on button 1 to 4. And they said, hey, this is artificial intelligence. Yeah, so I think you can see some people use it as a marketing tool because I believe you can also do that without AI, I would call it. But I think you get the idea. It's a very loose term. It's an umbrella term. And we have to be aware of that. And I think one important thing is this is not new. We do this for the since the last 70 years already under different names. So yeah, let's not be afraid of it. Let's make use of it. So yeah, but another thing I wanted to do is like put it into context because usually like for AI you have like very different techniques to use for a specific problem, right? So we have artificial intelligence as an umbrella term, as mentioned. Under that we have like machine learning, which is like the more traditional kind of way of doing AI in a very tabular format, and like there's every time like there's a new model for a specific use case, right? Which we can cover in AutoML as well in the Qlik Cloud. Then you have like deep learning as a subfield of machine learning. We're talking there about like neural networks, performing tasks like image recognition, audio recognition, stuff like this. And as a subfield of deep learning, we have now generative AI with a breakthrough last year, I think, with ChatGPT. And here we're focusing really on the task of generating new content. Yeah, so just like it can be images, can be text, can be, or in our Insight Advisor we create a visualization, right? So that's also some sort of generative AI. Good. So once we talked about this, I want to dig a little deeper into what can we do right now in the Qlik Cloud? Yeah. So what can we do right now in terms of generative AI, and not like what's on the roadmap, what can we do in the future or whatever. It's really about you can do that right now. And for that, I want to talk about our generative AI connectivity. So we have many connectors, like, for example, OpenAI, AWS Bedrock, and you can use a lot of different models there. And you can basically use this right now in your Qlik sense analysis or in application automation and so on and so forth. Yeah, so very powerful. As you also can basically talk to models which are hosted in your cloud environment, right? So it's not like publicly, yeah, no one uses that then for training a model or something like that. And yeah, first customers are using that, yeah. So and pretty successful. So especially for a customer service use case where a company sells stuff, they get a review back, and they have not only one review, but they have a whole bunch of reviews, like hundreds of thousands of reviews. And that's pretty challenging to make use of this, actually. Well, before we had large language models, right? It was difficult, but now it's kind of easy, and we can do cool things. Like what we can do, for example, is we can take this review, feed it into, or like with a JSON format, we can feed it essentially to a large language model, and we can ask many questions due to the JSON format, and can basically generate a structure out of unstructured data. And yeah, that's really opening new doors, new possibilities. Because imagine if we have like hundreds of thousands of yeah, different reviews, and before large language models, what we could do was, yeah, we could do like a sentiment analysis. We could say, hey, yeah, this customer hates you, or this customer likes you. But now we can really bring structure where no structure is yet. Yeah, and I think that is very powerful. The company who's using this can now basically, on a large scale, drive value from their unstructured data in that sense. And yeah, they store it then and use it in a Qlik Sense app, right? So what you can then do on top of that, but that might be a little risky, you can generate like responses from an AI and send it directly, or you can propose it to a customer agent, for example, and hey, maybe you want to adjust this a little bit or so, make it a little more personal. Yeah, but I think there is a lot of value in that, and with application automation, we could push this to any CRM system or ERP system or whatever, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Usually I would have demoed this as well now, but I think we rather want to see Qlik Answers. That's why I skipped this part, and I'm going to jump directly to a little bit to the dark side of things, to the threats of generative AI. And what I've brought with me is results of a July 2023 report from Goldman Sachs, and they asked executives the question, hey, why are you not yet adopting generative AI, or what kind of challenges do you see? And yeah, they identified a couple of major stumbling blocks. Yeah, so some are limited traceability of sources, or as we all know probably, hey, making factually wrong decisions. Yeah, so giving us like some answers which are just not correct. And yeah, the outcomes are not reproducible. Yeah, so that is also a big problem. And well, these models, they are trained on the whole internet, kind of. So it's a little, yeah, we all know there's a little messy. Yeah, there's certainly some blog posts which are old or which are not correct or whatever, right? So there's no kind of like data quality barrier, right? I think Rainer will talk about data quality later on. What does that mean? And yeah, risk of data breaches, no strategy, and yeah, so these are all challenges. And I brought an example with me, which is actually pretty straightforward. So in April 2023, I just asked Apple, hey, asked OpenAI or ChatGPT, hey, what's the gross margin of Apple? And the answer was pretty bad, completely hallucinated, absolutely wrong. Also, if someone does the job and adding up the numbers, they also don't make sense. It's like, it's wrong. And yeah, in February 2024, this got a little better. So then we got an answer like, hey, I can't provide real-time data, including the most recent financial information about companies like Apple, for example. I mean, that's better, but it's still not really usable. for an enterprise, right? If I want to have generative AI deployed in my company, I want real-time data and I want good answers, right? So that's a little bit of a problem. So there is like one framework or one paradigm evolved over time, and that's called Retrieval Augmented Generation. And what that is about, it's about essentially bringing the right data right into the prompt as well, and helping basically the large language model to have the right data to answer the question. That's, to put it in simple words. This is a fancy quote which I brought here, but I also brought like a good example of that to just show how that looks like, because it might be a little bit sounding complex or so, but it actually is very straightforward. So what I did now, like I took the same example from before, but I went to Yahoo Finance and gathered the right information to answer this question, and I just gave it to ChatGPT as well. And if we do that, we get a pretty good result, which is like an enterprise solution, or which could be an enterprise solution. It provides here information about, okay, what is the gross margin, how's that being calculated, it plugs in the right numbers, and it gives a pretty good answer, which is correct as well. So that is pretty good. But now if we think about it on a large scale, and we put it a little bit together for an enterprise, we all know the world is not that shiny. There's messy things in our architecture. We all know it, like data sources which are not so accessible or so, or which are just old, outdated legacy systems. And certainly we have also a lot, or like a big variety of data. So we have typically structured data like databases, unstructured data like PDF files laying around and stuff like this. So quite messy if you say, okay, I want to give all this data somehow to my large language model, right? How would we do this? And for unstructured data, there is a good way already, basically the same way what OpenAI does as well. So what they do is, with your question, they generate vectors out of that, right? So like these large language models, or we can't calculate necessarily with strings, right? So we have to transform it, and that's a transformation step. We generate basically like a list of numbers out of a chunk of text, and then we store it in a database for that purpose, designed into a vector database. And we have our users, right? Our customer agents, managers, whoever, you name it, basically everyone actually. And we have our questions still. We have our large language model, which might be hosted somewhere. And now what we want to do is, okay, based on the question, so first step what we would need to do is take the question and generate, again, like a numerical representation of that, so we can calculate with it. And then, once we did that, we want to retrieve actually like the relevant documents. Yeah, so based on similarity search and stuff like this, we want to retrieve the relevant documents for my question. And that's something you can do right now pretty well, but it's a lot of effort, right? Like the whole this whole process, which is like very simplified here, is pretty intense. Yeah, and I mean that's the way for unstructured data. That's, we can do that. That's something we can do. With structured data, it's a little bit more challenging because like you have relationships. Yeah, it's a relational database. You have like massive amounts of data, which are, a lot. And so what can you do? How can you retrieve the relevant structured data? And there's, like one thing you can do is with Qlik Sense. You can, for example, be in your normal environment and you can select the right data for the question, right? For example, you go into Qlik Sense app, you are a German sales leader, you can filter for Germany, or I don't know, use section access or something to only have the Germany data. And then you can send that data with our generative AI connectors, for example, to your LLM, right? So that works, that's good. So you can basically, make use out of your structured data in the Qlik Sense app, and you can ask questions around it, right? Like, for example, hey, give me a rundown, how did we do in Germany, or so, yeah? That is a manual approach, which we can use right now. That's very good. Not many tools can do that, just for your information. But on a large scale, we would have to leverage something like a text-to-SQL generative AI, which I don't want to spoiler Gary's talk, but something we will be able to do as well. Yeah, so these are the ways how we can basically perform retrieval augmented generation in an enterprise scenario. Yeah, and then eventually in the end we actually answer the question. And we thought, hey, this is like a very complex process. Why don't we do something for our customers and build something which is called Qlik Answers? And that is essentially doing exactly that, right? So it takes care of your unstructured data, right? So for example, you have, I don't know, a whole bunch of PDF files, PowerPoints, text files, Markdown, HTML, whatever. And you can feed it into Qlik Answers, and basically you can chat them with this knowledge which is like in the text files, for example, right? So as I said, pretty intense process to build it, but we did it for you guys, so you can use it, and it's really like a plug and play solution, right? So it's very easy to set up. I'll show that in a minute. And yeah, it's completely out of the box. Yeah, so it will be in your Qlik Cloud tenant. And one important thing is, like I mentioned, hey, ChatGPT does, for example, like wrong answers and stuff like this. So what we did here is we want it to be reliable and consistent and really using your files, right? Like your data, essentially, to answer questions. So there will be mechanisms like, hey, I can't answer you the question because the knowledge that you provided me with has no answer for your question, right? So stuff like this. And obviously completely governed and secure. And yeah, it really provides answers, and also it references where it got the knowledge from. Yeah, so let's assume you have 1,000 documents in your knowledge base or something like that. If you ask a question about, hey, what is machine learning? It will tell you, hey, this is machine learning according to this document you provided me with. Yeah, so pretty powerful. Yeah, as I said, it's completely a plug and play solution. Yeah, so there is you will have enterprise connectivity as well. Yeah, so you can set up data connections to your knowledge base. Then you can connect this knowledge base to an assistant. Yeah, and with the help of this assistant, you can then actually answer questions. You can see a history as well. Yeah, so I don't know. Rainer, for example, asked a question about data integration, and he wasn't liking the answers. Then he can tell, hey, I don't like the answer, it's not helpful. And you as a manager of this knowledge base, or of this assistant, you can see that, and you can actually then act on it. Yeah? So pretty powerful. One more thing where we see a lot of potential is an embeddable assistant. Yeah? So what you will be able to do is you will be able to basically build your knowledge base, manage your knowledge base, have an assistant, and you can embed that in wherever you want, right? Like your website, your CRM system, your ERP system, wherever you would need right now an assistant for your workforce or whoever would need it. And yeah, as mentioned, you have this answer review portal, you know, where you get user feedback and you can manage your knowledge base. Maybe there's like a lot of questions about a certain topic which is not included in your knowledge base, so you could potentially add that. Yeah, so that's it. I think also enough of slides. Let's just jump in and have a look at that. And just once again, please bear with me. This is a staging tenant, so this is not GA yet. It will come end of July or mid of July, I think, 17th or something like that. So if we face any obstacles or so, please bear with me. Yeah. I also have access just like since the last 2 days or so, so I'm a newbie myself. Yeah. So please really bear with me. Yeah. I brought one other example with me from ChatGPT. I asked, hey, what is Qlik Answers? and as expected, got a shitty answer. Yeah, so something which is, I mean, at some point, like, it's a little bit true, but most things are not true, right? So if, for example, tells us, hey, it generates visualizations and stuff like this, and there we see like one of these issues, like it's hallucinating, you know, it knows some things about Qlik. Yeah, it's a visualization tool. It knows some things about the Insight Advisor because that's the tool we use for years now. But it doesn't know Qlik Answers because there's, you know, like there's a knowledge cutoff, and it just doesn't know Qlik Answers. But it pretends like it would know it, and that's something we want to avoid, right? Yeah. So here is my tenant. I hope everyone can see that. That's absolutely lovely. What I want to do now first, if you are in the cloud, maybe you realize that here's a new UI. We have rearranged it in case someone notices it. We've moved from the right to the left. Yeah, it's just different. Yeah, so maybe you need to get used to it. Also, you have like the create button, for example, not on the top right corner here anymore. You have it here now on the left side as well. And this changed a lot as well. So there we go. Yeah, create. Yeah, so you see the create button here is on the left side now. I think that's also not GA yet. I think. So it's at least not on my tenant yet. But I think it'll come soon. So and what we see here are different objects now. Yeah. So what we see here, for example, is we have here our assistant, as I mentioned. Yeah. We have another type which is called knowledge base. Yeah, and I mentioned these terms before in my presentation, but now you see it right here as well. And what we'll do now, I think we want to create an assistant, right? Let's build one together. So let's give it a name. Let's give it my personal space, and let's open it up directly. And so this is the first kind of like interface you will see. Yeah? So this is the Qlik Assistant, and you have different capabilities you can do here right now. The majority of you guys probably see here, hey, add knowledge base, yeah, but bear with me, let's talk about other things first. We have here something like called conversation starters, and that is something where you can actually, you know, like how you are maybe used to it, like from chatbots, like there's always like, hey, maybe you want to ask about certain things, right? And that is pretty helpful. And that would appear then here, down here, hey, you can give the question, and then I'll show that later. You have settings as well, yeah, so you can have a welcome message and stuff like this. Yeah, pretty straightforward. But now let's go ahead maybe and yeah, create a knowledge base for our assistant, right? So let's go ahead, we can click here, create knowledge base. We call it Qlik help, and we create that thing. Now I'm prompted to, provide some data. There's different options. So first I can upload a file from my file storage, from my local file storage. I can choose from the catalog. Yeah. By the way, this is a big thing as well. We can store now unstructured data in the Qlik cloud as well. New, couldn't do this before. Now we can. PDF files, whatever. Yeah, you name it. I think when I click upload, yeah, here, that's something I wanted to show. So these will be the supported file types for our knowledge base. Yeah, so we see here's text files, markdown files, PDF files, and so on for docx, PPTX, HTML, and stuff like that. This will obviously will be increased over time, right? But what we see right now is like the preview for GA in July, and obviously it will grow. Just want to show that. I don't want to go ahead with this. Because I want to use something more enterprise-y, yeah, and I want to use a data connection. So, because as mentioned, we can not only put files here, but we can actually, plug in like a connection to some data storage, like a S3 bucket, or a SharePoint page, or a OneDrive, or I think Dropbox as well. For example, if I click create connection, then I'm prompted to what we will support in the first iteration of this product. We see blob storage as well. Yeah, Dropbox. So not OneDrive, sorry. Delete that from the memo or the video. Yeah, blob storage and stuff like that. Yeah. But I have prepared something here. So like an S3 bucket with some unstructured data. What I can do then is, okay, I could now go ahead and do a manual selection. That's what I will do today for the demo as well. But eventually, if you are in a production environment, what you want to do, you have like maybe a big file storage, and then you want to have like proper tools as well. So what you can do here, you can set up dynamic rules, you know, about like the filtering of the storage, right? So you can have here like you can have folder depth and stuff like this. But what I find really cool is like you can also add regex to filter the right documents out of the folder. That should help you to, you know, like set up the indexing of the data source properly, and only get the right documents into the knowledge base which you want to have, right? So yeah, so that's something which is pretty cool. I will do the manual selection, you know, because it's just easier for today. And what we can do here, I have a whole bunch of things here, but what I want to do is I want to add markdown files from our Qlik help page, yeah, because what I would like to have is like an assistant which knows everything about Qlik, yeah, or about the Qlik help documentation page, and that's what we can do here. So I just, you know, select a couple, so you get the idea. I could now essentially, you know, put everything in what I want, but I just go ahead here now, mark a couple of them, select it, and I see the message, hey, file successfully added. So now what I did is I added that to the knowledge base, but as I've shown before, we need to do a transformation step to kind of like put this data into our vector database, which is like hosted internally, fully managed. You don't have to do anything. The only thing you have to do is clicking this button. So I clicked it now, and now the things are happening. That's called indexing. So what's happening is Qlik takes all these files, parses the text from it, creates text chunks, right? Like certain chunk sizes, takes it out and creates a vector representation of this. So like just a number of lists, and puts it into a vector database. Yeah. So that's what's happening here right now. So that can take, you know, depending on the document, can take some time. And the cool thing here is this whole thing can be scheduled as well. Yeah. So you can say, hey, I don't know, every day I want to update my knowledge base with new files, for example. Yeah. And that is really cool to manage, you know, up-to-date data, right? So this is not then something which is like real time, but it's at least like batched, you know, in first iteration. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think, can I show something here? No history yet, because we haven't indexed yet. Yeah, so it's not done yet. It's still pending. Don't want to look at this and wait for the results. So that's why I prepared something here. This is like a ready-to-use assistant from the Qlik help page. And what can we do here, for example, right? We can, for example, ask, hey, how do I create a bar chart and stuff like this? And the cool thing here, as mentioned before, it generates you an answer, which is okay, it's pretty straightforward, but it gives you as well the source of the answer. Yeah. So, and there's a big thing because now we can double check and tell, hey, we can validate really. Yeah, we can tell, hey, Qlik Answers, this is messed up, that your source is wrong. And what I could do then potentially, I could just say, hey, here, this is, I don't like this answer. I can tell, hey, it's inaccurate or whatever, and I can give it additional feedback. Outdated information. Yeah? Can submit this, and the person who manages the knowledge base and the assistant, they can then review this. Yeah. Yeah. So I have prepared also so here right now I'm not the manager of it, right? So I'm not seeing here certain tabs, but I have brought another one which has these tabs now. just one day before or so, we had here the history tab. This history tab right now is gone. I don't know why, but I assume it will come back. Yeah. But there you see, like, we are constantly working on it, right? Because it's a quite intense and complex environment which we provide here. Also some security things, you know, like maybe if you're aware of like prompt injection or something like this, where you make the large language model do something it shouldn't do. Yeah, like for example, I don't know, explaining you how to build a bomb or something like this. You don't want the large language model to explain that to people. By the way, ChatGPT also, or OpenAI, has no solution to that right now as well. I can basically make it to tell me, explain to me how to build a bomb. It's not that good. It's not that easy of a task. That's why we are, like working on this constantly. That it is really just like the helpful assistant, and it's not telling you things which we don't want. I think that's it for now from my side. Thank you so much.